unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show with yours truly, Christopher Rausch, the place where I help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Thank you guys for joining us here on the podcast, or actually on the video cast, which we're doing right now. We're doing a live video cast for those of you listening on the podcast. We do a live video cast every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We want to have that live engagement. We want to be able to have those conversations and include you in it. So if you're ever interested in joining us on the show, always go to rawandunscripted.com and make sure that you check out the show there and join us here every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're everywhere. We're everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. So we'd love to have you on the live program and asking us questions as we are going live. But anyways, thank you for all being here. We appreciate you guys tonight. We got an amazing show for you tonight. We got a fun show for you tonight. I'm excited about tonight because I'll just give you a little bit of a hint. You guys have followed me for any great deal of time. You guys know I'm sarcastic. You guys know I rough around the edges with humor and seriousness and stuff like that. And sometimes that's really a great way to be able to get information across to people in a humorous way. You change somebody's state, you make them laugh, you make them think, and there's something that kind of cements that in there. So we're going to be talking about that. But one of the things I want to let you guys know is that we're going to be talking about books tonight, but the book that I want to talk about right now in this particular moment is It's Just You and Me, Kid. It's Just You and Me, Kid.com. Go check it out. This is a memoir about my life, my crazy life as a homeless 7th grade dropout who ultimately got a master's degree and lives this crazy life that I do today. It's just youandmekid.com. Go there, check it out. There's a bunch of bonuses you're going to get to help me make it a bestseller. It's going to be coming out later this summer. So thank you for that. We appreciate you guys. And yes, we got Guy Berlando in the house. He says, good evening, Christopher. Good evening, Guy. Good to have you here. I'm sure you're sitting there with your wife, having a few spirits perhaps, and enjoying this conversation. So we appreciate you being here. Guy has been on the show before. He's also been on our Unfiltered experience. So thank you, Guy, for being here. Appreciate you, man. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to give you a visual representation of the gentleman that we're going to be having on tonight. I want to give you a visual representation of some of the books that he has done. There it is. Rob versus the scammers, Rob versus the entitled, Rob versus the morons, Rob versus humanity, Rob versus the wackadoos, lessons from the dojo, no experience. Oh, then we can just do this. So we'll just stop that and we'll do this. We got no experience necessary by Rob. This is the one, Rob versus humanity. Ooh, this is a good one. And then we got this one, which is Navigating Hollywood, how writers and actors, directors, producers can achieve more by thinking creatively. Please welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show, Mr. Rob Anspach. What's going on, Rob? Thank you for being here tonight. Welcome to the show.
That's good to be here. You know, I was waiting for you to make the when you're talking about where you can find your show, you didn't mention beta. I mean, we're 55 years old.
Betamax, yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, before we went live, Rob and I were talking about the fact that it was my birthday yesterday and I turned 55 and he's approaching 55 in June. So we're kind of talking about the fact that as we get older, the time gets shorter and the pains get greater and everything else. But it's still amazing to be here and be alive because there's no guarantee whether any of us will get tomorrow. So my whole belief is that when you live today and you live in the moments and you appreciate and you have gratitude, it's pretty incredible what you can achieve in life. So my first question to you today, Mr. Rob, is what do you want to get across most to people listening and watching tonight? What are some of the things that, and what I told you about before we went live and what we prepared for, what is it, some of the things that you want to get across tonight when we talk about resiliency, we talk about attitude, we talk about authenticity, which I know that you can go deep on that. What is it you want to get across people tonight?
Freedom and legacy. Freedom as an entrepreneur, you call the shots. You know, everything that you do is based on doing what you want, when you want, how you want, you know, for the benefit of you and your family. Legacy is what do you want to leave behind so that you can be remembered by the next generation. The books that I produce, the podcast, the things that I do, you know, that's inspiring the next generation. So freedom and legacy.
Freedom and legacy. Why? What is it about freedom that is so important to you?
You know, back when I was young and I watched the Temple of Doom, you know, the Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones goes to a short round, fortune and glory, kid, fortune and glory. And I thought, you know, that sounds cool. But as I started these businesses, as now I'm 23 years into Anspach Media. It never was about fortune and glory. It was always about freedom and legacy. And so when you look at things, even George Lucas, who produced Indiana Jones,
Mm-hmm.
it was never about money. It was about legacy. And everything that he's produced has created that legacy that eventually Disney picked up and ruined. Sorry, Disney. But it was that legacy that he left behind. And so, the books that I write, when I first started writing books, it was all seriousness and people liked them. They learned stuff. But it wasn't until the Rob Versus series that my sarcastic nature came out, and people are like, "Rob, this is funny. Wow, can you help me?" And I started helping
Help you what? Help them write the book, or
help them write their books, or do their marketing, or build their websites, or do their SEO. They just wanted to be part of that. They wanted to have someone that wasn't so serious, a.k.a. my what people call me, Mr. Sarcasm. But the thing is that even though I am sarcastic and I make people laugh, my clients know that I have their back. I'm never going to do anything that's going to do them harm. And I think they realize that, know. But there's a lot of people out there that write books. They're very serious. First thing they do, they take their money and they disappear. And we call those the gurus. And so my newest book, which is back here on a shelf somewhere, it's called Unscripted, Unfiltered, Unwoo-woo, and Unguru.
I was going to talk about that.
And that book came about. I had interviewed, in fact, you've been on my eHeroes podcast, but Steve Gamlin has been on my eHeroes podcast the most. He appeared 7 times in 5 years. And after the 7th interview, I thought, you know what? This would make a great book. So I transcribed all those podcasts, put all 7 episodes together. And I said, Steve, what do you think? And he goes, oh, this is amazing. You could see the evolution over 5 years of the things that we were talking about, overcoming COVID, making our businesses better. But it was also sharing our joys and our fears and our failures but people could see, reading through this book, that it was just 2 guys sitting on a porch talking in a conversational tone, and they felt like they could just trust these 2 people. And I tell people, I said, look, you know what? I experience, and I'm sure you have too, Christopher, working in the trenches.
Oh yeah.
Getting kicked in the jimmies. And we get up and we get kicked again.
Oh,
but
yeah.
we still get up. For us, it's not about
unstoppable.
How many times we get kicked. It's about how many times we get up and sometimes we kick back.
Mm-hmm.
But the life lessons that we learn, we teach other people.
Yeah, the hero's journey.
And in all the, I've produced 43 books in 11 years.
Wow.
And in all those books, none of the stories are different. I mean, I've packed so much stuff in there. Now, some of them, yes, are client books that we've helped produce, but their stories are amazing as well. And so, I'm just grateful that I'm able to come onto these podcasts and share with people that, your story matters. And if it's whether it be a sarcastic story, whether it be a serious story, there's people out there that really want to hear what you have to say.
Oh yeah, big time.
But there's people say, "Well, Rob, I'm not interested." Look, I had a carpet cleaning company before I started the consulting business. How many stories of carpet cleaners do you know are interesting?
Well, I can imagine there's some. Mrs. Robinson showing up at the front door. I've heard those stories.
But the thing is that when you can dive deep into your business and every day write down exactly what happened that day, whether it's funny, whether it's educational, and just journal it. And at the end of 6 months or at the end of the year, you take those stories, you assemble them, they're a book. And now you didn't have to sit down, rent a cabin or whatever these guys do nowadays, and seclude yourself and try to figure out, oh my God, what's that story? Oh yeah, I got to remember. And they procrastinate and never get the book done.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take chunks of your day every day, just write a little bit. Within 1 year, you have a book. You can put it out there, and people are going, "Wow, these are amazing stories."
The thing I use, where the fuck did it go? Oh, here it is. The thing I recommend to people to use that don't necessarily like to write is this thing. Digital voice recorder. You record your book into your digital voice recorder, you put it in Dragon Naturally Speaking. Now there's so many different transcribing softwares. You transcribe it, you send it to an editor, they edit it, and then poof, you have a book, right? Yeah. It's not so complicated as it used to be before. But I want to go back to something you said before, and I want people really to kind of get this, because when I asked you to be on the show, I'm very specific in who I ask to be on the show or who I want to be on the show. Let's put it that way. I mean, everybody has to go through a vetting process to be on the show now. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about you when I met you to be on your show and through the conversations we've had and seeing you in social media is you're very authentic. And I said that word earlier. And I know that so many people say that word's overused. I don't fucking care. I like people who are true and real. Obviously, I was on that path where I was telling somebody earlier today, I was very prescriptive. I knew that if I was this person for Rob and this person for Tammy and this person for Bill and this person for Gina, that I would be successful. As long as I knew what Rob wanted, as long as I knew it. Okay, this person likes my sense of humor. This person likes my sarcasm. This person likes swearing. This person likes clean cut humor. They don't like anything. They like to talk about religion. These people, And as long as I knew that, I was very successul. But at the end of the day, I was exhausted. I would go home and I'd be like, okay, I've got money, I've got fame, I've got accolades and all this other stuff, but I'm not being me. And then I got lost in who I was. So I really had to kind of do a hard reset to figure out who Chris really is. And sometimes I still struggle with that. Even through COVID, I realized, because before COVID, I worked in a corporate job. And so I was gone all day and I was out around people. And so something just occurred to me the other day, realizing that since I've been doing my coaching and my speaking and all that other stuff full time and working from the house, I realized that I need to be around people. I realized that, that's super important. And when we're really authentic with ourselves, that connection to be able to develop with people enhances, right? Because there's no lying, there's no games, there's no shenanigans. You're Rob, I'm Chris, we're gonna have a great time. What's going on? We don't have to worry about filters. We can just be each other, right? What recommendations do you, first I want you to talk about your journey in that. If you had a journey like where you were just Mr. Rob and I was very serious and everything, talk to us about that journey of being Rob very serious and then being Rob who you enjoy being now.
Yeah, it's just the whole sarcasm thing. I've always been sarcastic, but I've always been tempered when I was on social media. And at the very beginning, and even up and probably until 2015, 2016. And then people would meet me and they're like, you're not the same guy. You're very PC on social, but you're very sarcastic now. And I went to an event and I just jumped right into the conversation, and I was, and a guy looked at me and goes, Rob, you're an asshole.
Who said that?
This guy I met there.
Cool.
I never knew him before. It was the first time I met. And I said, oh yeah, I am. I just kept talking. And I thought, you know what? I had something important to say. I was going to say it. I wasn't going to let him stop me. And about an hour later, he comes back up. He goes, I need to apologize. He goes, I talked to a bunch of other people, and that's just who you are. I said, what, an asshole? And he goes, well, yeah. I said, okay. But the funny thing was, about a year later, he appeared on my podcast.
Really?
And he's like, Rob, you're like my best friend. And I'm like, really? You really put the bar low. But the funny thing is that the more I was this guy, the more I was sarcastic. I think before I started being sarcastic, I was at like 1,000 friends on Facebook. And I started sharing these sarcastic stories, and poof, within 4 months, I was up to 5,000. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Mm-hmm. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are you listening to this? That when Rob got connected to being who Rob is, everything started improving. Please go on,
Yeah,
Rob.
and then people start, and I came up with this concept of sharing these stories that because I was the whole concept of the Rob Versus series when it first started. I was just taking these Visa, MasterCard scammer calls, and I would slam the phone down. I thought, this is not working. I'm gonna stroke out just taking these calls. So I started playing around with them.
Oh yeah, I did that too.
And after a while, my wife's like, "Who are you talking to? Who is that?" And so I started writing down what I was these adventures, these sarcastic adventures, and I'd share them out on Facebook, and people were like, "You got to make that into a book. You've already written all these other books." I'm like, "Okay." So I took about 50 of these stories and I assembled them to a book, and I started sharing it out to people, and people were like, "Yeah, Rob, that's great. Go get it covered, get it made." And it took off. And
yeah.
But I had enough material left over. I made a second book called Rob Versus the Morons. And now I've been producing 2 of these books every year. And I guess it was last October, I produced the 8th Rob Versus book, Rob Versus the Nincompoops. And I have enough material to do book 9 and 10, which is coming out this year. But the thing is, it's just that I was my authentic self, and I produced all these books. And imagine if all the people out there were their authentic selves. Imagine how they could put their story into a book and make themselves shine.
Yeah, man, that's super important. Oh, I think my wife just reset the internet, so I might have a little problem with my show. I just looked down on my computer and I noticed that the Wi-Fi is gone, and now it's like I have a line running to my computer. I have a double Jeopardy computer, so I don't screw things up. But I just noticed that the Wi-Fi went off. Sometimes she resets the Wi-Fi because something's not working and forgets.
Like, I don't even like that Rob guy. He's gone.
Like forget the fuck that I'm up here doing my show. Like, she knows 7 o'clock. Like, so anyway, so if we have any technical difficulties, I'll be back, but it should be all right. I've got a fail safe. But no, thank you for sharing that, Rob. I want to get to that in just a second. I just want to capture some of these beautiful people here. Got Guy Brando in the house. He says we are here together. Yes, thank you, brother. Got my dear friend Nancy. You guys got to follow Nancy. She talks about it. She says Jimmy's. She's cracking up over there. So please follow Nancy. She's a dear friend of mine. Dennis Nermilla from China says, have a raw and unscripted day. Greetings from China, brother. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, Dennis. Nancy says here, mob carpet cleaner. And then she says here, study dialogue was what my dear friend Jen Volai suggested. And then she talks about pure joy because she is known for pure joy, experiential joy, as a matter of fact.
I discovered, though, when you say kicked in the jimmies, social media doesn't censor you, but people get the gist. If I come right out and say it, I get censored everywhere. So
it is true. So and part of that, I want you. I can't remember if you really touched on it, but what was it for you to make that connection to well, let me rephrase that. So as you embraced more being Rob, sarcastic Rob, we'll just call it sarcastic Rob. I used to have bad Chris and good Chris, because bad Chris was the one that swore and good Chris was the one that didn't. I actually had 2 Facebook profiles, no shit, for about 2 years, because some people liked me who swear and some people said, I love you, Chris, but I can't handle swearing. And so I literally created 2 Facebook profiles. I wanted to see which one was going to get the most traction, and they both went up evenly. And so one day I got to a point where I literally laughed at myself and said, Chris, really, you have to pick one of yourselves. Right? You have to pick one of yourselves. And not like I was updating them, together, but sometimes I'd update the bad one or something, whatever. And I said, you got to be true to you, Chris. Like, if people don't dig it, then they're not your people. And this was years and years and years and years ago, when I was on this path of like, okay, yeah, I can be prescriptive and be what I need to be for everybody else to be successful, but then I'm not happy. But if I'm happy, then other people are miserable. But maybe those aren't my people. And so, like you said, once I started just being me, raw and unscripted, unfiltered, this is the way I am. This is how I roll. Some people were like, Chris, I can't hang. And some people were like, oh my God, you're so refreshing. You're so real. And to your point, Rob, everybody who meets me, who has seen me on my show or met me through social media, everybody who meets me says, Chris, you're exactly like you're on the show. You're exactly like you're in your coaching. You're exactly like you are in your videos. And I'm like, yeah, because that's all I want to be. And I think, and I know, I don't even think I know this, that if we get more people, Rob, to be themselves, I believe there would be a lot less hatred in the world. I think there would be lots of negative things in the world. But I think one of the first factors in that is that we have to love ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem, that we don't love ourselves. So we pretend to be somebody not to get the validation from somebody else. Talk to us about that in your mind. How do you process that? And what recommendations do you have for other people to process that? Because that's a huge thing when people make that jump from being who they could be successfully, but not be who they are.
I think that social media made it worse because they censor everything. So everybody got so feared, that they're like, oh my God, Facebook is going to give me a timeout. They're going to, I always say, you're going to get 30 days in the cooler from the old Hogan's Heroes show.
Well, I got deleted by Facebook. My whole profile 2 years ago got deleted. 5,000 friends, 8,000.
Facebook says that, we have freedom of speech, but then they want to curtail us in what we say and do. And then it just makes people angry. So for me, it was like, you know what, I'm just going to say what I say. And if Facebook cripples me, I don't care. I got other platforms I can go on. But the thing is, I made it kind of a game every day. Who am I going to trigger today? And I started watching I topped out at 5,000 followers, and I started slowly seeing, leave. But then more people would jump in. Hey, Rob, I want to be your friend. Okay. Well, it was just, so, I still stay up at that top, but all the ones that are getting triggered are being replaced by people who really want to, listen to what I say, which is great. I don't want to be a cult leader. I don't want to be a guru. I'm just an average guy from Pennsylvania that has 6 kids and grandkids. And that's all I care about.
Simple. That's the thing I want to get across to people as well, is the simplicity in life. I was just talking to somebody. I mean, both of us are nearly the same age, obviously. And I find that the older
you're older, I can tell.
Yeah, I know. It's the gray, right? But the older I get, the more I find. I was just thinking about this today, not even knowing we were going to be talking about this, but the older I get, the more enjoyment, the more satisfaction, the deeper the peace that I have in the simple things, right? And seeing my cat, just smelling the air. Like, how cool is that? Like watching her nose is like, oh, fuck, that's cool. Like we take so much stuff for granted, seeing the wind blow through the trees. I was doing that at the park the other day with my son. He was out playing, and I just looked up and I'm like, how fucking cool is that? And I wasn't high, I wasn't drunk, or wasn't anything else. Like that's really beautiful. We're always in our brains. We're always in our egos. We're always in the yesterdays and, oh, what could I have done differently, or the tomorrows and all that other stuff. We're not living today. And that's one of the biggest things for me, is like to be able to live in the moments, like really be present in the moments. And I know you're a dad. What do you do to get yourself out of, business mode and into that intentional mode to be a dad and to be present in those moments with your family?
Well, to be honest, it didn't happen during my first business. I had this carpet cleaning business I had for 19 years. Then I overlapped it with my consulting. And so I was never around for my kids because I was always working. I always thought that was the be all end all thing that entrepreneurs did. You work 18 hours a day and every now and then you take the kids on vacation somewhere.
Yeah.
And when I started the coaching business, I thought, screw that. I'm working 4 hours a day. This is what I'm going to do. This is my terms and conditions. If a customer wants to work with me, that's great. And if they come back to me and say, Rob, the customer's always right, I'm going to say, fuck off. No, they're not. And that's been my attitude. And the thing is, most of my clients, I don't have contracts now. I got rid of all contracts about 5 years ago. And if you want to work with me, great. This is my invoice. You pay it every month. We keep going. I've had clients for 5-6 years. They don't leave. and that's, for me, it was, and a lot of my clients are lawyers and doctors, and they don't like being treated that way. They like telling customers, hey, you got to do this, 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 and this. They got lousy bedside manners.
Yep.
Most lawyers have gone to the Vulcan School of No Emotion. And so when you tell them to fuck off because they're wrong, they're like,
Do you literally say that to them?
I have a couple times because you know what? I got tired of their shit.
Yeah.
And the one guy says, well, I am a lawyer. I said, yeah. And I'm your marketer that's helping you be more human. So
was he trying to threaten you he was going to sue you for not doing something?
I said, we don't have a contract, dude. You can leave anytime you want. I said, but I'm trying to get you clients. I'm trying to make you more human, get you off that pedestal so that you can, be more, acceptable, more relatable to your clients.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
he couldn't
true.
understand that because he went to college to learn all this stuff. And I said, look, you and I understand legalese because a lot of my clients are lawyers, but your clients don't understand that. So speak to them like they're in 5th grade, dumb it down. And the moment they start doing that, they get better clients because the clients feel like they're speaking directly to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always encourage everybody that whatever industry you are in, don't speak shop talk to your clients because they won't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it down to a level that anybody, especially a 5th grader, can know what you're talking about, feel like you're talking to them, and you're going to find your businesses, you get better types of clients anyway.
Amen, man. Amen. You get, not only that, I mean, when you're super intentional, which is the word you're using, I mean, essentially the mode you're talking about is when you're being intentional on just being yourself, that deepens that connection because no longer are you in your egoic state. You're in your soul state. And so in your soul state, that's where the vibration thing kind of comes into place. And this is all new to me because, my literal tagline is I help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. So the meditation and the energy and the vibration, all that shit's new for me for like the last 5 years. Probably Nancy is laughing her brains off because Nancy's into all that stuff. I was not into that. So I'm like, you can go fucking sit Indian style and go woo all you want, but it's not going to get you shit. That's what I used to say. But now I understand more the deeper connection. Like when I'm just being me, then you're like, oh, hey, I can connect with that guy. Oh, hey, I can talk to that person. Oh, I don't have to worry about, is he going to be this or is he going to be that? He's just going to be normal. Right? Is he going to have an opinion about something? Sure. Is he going to be a dick about it? No, that's the thing that most people don't understand is that there's that fine line between being sarcastic, like and that guy said, like being an asshole, or being sarcastic and being kind.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? Because I know for me that I used to be more sarcastic and would tend to be perceived sometimes as an asshole. I've changed that a little bit where I think about the things I'm going to say so they're not hurtful. And because I have stuck my foot in my mouth so many times thinking I was going to be funny and then find out I was, inappropriate or something like that. How do you balance that line? Because I think people out there were probably thinking like, okay, how do I be me without, getting into too much trouble and stuff like that, kind of balancing that middle part.
I don't know what you just said, but no. I don't even think about it anymore.
Let me talk like a 5th grader.
I'm sorry.
How do you cope, Rob?
No,
Jill has 4 apples and Rob has 5 apples. How many?
I try not to even think about it anymore. I know that's most people are going, well, Rob, I want an answer. I don't balance anything. I just say what I say and let the chips fall where they may. And sometimes it gets me in trouble. But you know what? I'm not going to regret what I say. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who super analyze everything that they've done that day, who they spoke to, what they said, how, and then they're prepared to go to their keyboard and write an apology. I'm sorry the way I treated you today. Really? What's that going to do? Just going to reinforce that you treated that guy like a dick. You're not going to, get the sale back. I just let it go. If the person wants to be my client, they're my client. If they don't, they weren't meant to be anyway. And it's, I think that's the hardest thing for entrepreneurs because they want a client. They want someone that breathes, that can write them a check. And for me, look, you got to love sarcasm because that's who I am. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to hold your hand if you really need it. But I got your back.
Yeah.
And that's what they really want. I always tell people, social media started out, when you started to learn how to get clients, they needed to like you, trust you.
No like and trust. Yeah.
No like and trust. But through COVID changed things and we added that 4th dimension. They need to feel safe. And so you can be this sarcastic asshole, but if they feel safe with you, they're going to stay with you the rest of your life. And they don't have to like you. I have a client that I know he doesn't like me, but he respects me.
Right.
And he knows that I'm going to get work done. I'm going to get clients. I'm going to make the phone ring for him. And he feels safe. You know, he can. I don't tell people to call me on the phone anymore because that's reserved for scammers now, so I can waste their time and put it in the next book. But my clients, they can text me. They can Facebook chat me. They can find me on WhatsApp. But you always have that one person who says, Rob, why don't you pick up your phone? I just want to call you. I'm like, dude, just send me an email. It's faster. I'm checking that all the time. So I'm very accessible to the point, but I also want to put boundaries. And I know that person, and when they call me, they're going to be on the phone for 30 minutes telling me their whole life story before they even get to what they want to tell me.
Right.
But if they sit down and they get on this keyboard and they send me an email, it's going to be short, sweet, and I can fix it right away.
Right.
You know, I don't want to waste people's time on the phone, except scammers. So if you're a scammer, you're going in my book.
Well, I get like fucking 10 or 15 calls a day that are scammers. I just delete them and block them.
That's an amateur day. For me, it's like 125.
What? Well, you're probably on every list. You probably look for it. I'm surprised they don't ban you. I used to love telemarketing. I used to be a telemarketer back in the day. So when the phone would ring, when we have the traditional phone that you actually picked up, I was like, "Hi, is Mr. Rausch there?" Yeah, this is Mr. Rausch. Hey, this is Willie from da 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 da. You know, and whatever they would try to sell me, I'm like, "Oh my God, Willie! I couldn't believe I was just thinking about. I needed these. Not only do I need one, dude, I have a company with 5,000 people. I need 5,000. Whatever it was, I would just get them, and they'd be like, "Oh, okay." You could hear their voice, da da da, and I'm like, "Okay," and I keep them going. I'm like, well, Willie, I got to talk to you for a second. Okay. I got to be honest with you. I want all of these. I really, really do. I want them. I'm going to use them and everything else. But I just got to tell you, I just got out of jail for embezzlement. I just got out of jail for perjury. I just got out of jail for a couple of things. So I need you to, Mr. Rausch, I need to go. Well, no. You wanted to sell me some stuff. I want to buy some stuff. You know, I don't do it anymore, but I used to do all sorts of
today I've gotten 4 calls for Annie Stafford. and so I answer them. Yep, I'm Annie Stafford. And they're like, well, you don't sound like a woman. I'm like, Annie is short for Anakin. And they're like, oh, okay. It's like, dude, you never watched Star Wars?
Right.
And it's just, I keep these people on the phone as long as I can, just so I can get a story out of it.
That is crazy. So let's shift gears for a minute, because I mean, obviously you're a book writer, and people out there do have their stories. What do you do? I mean, I'm sure. I mean, do you ever go through creative slumps? And if you do, what do you recommend to people to get in that creative space? Because so many times we're in the zany brain space. We're not able to get creative. What do you do to get creative if you don't already have it naturally? What recommendations do you give people?
Before I started writing books, I wrote a lot of blog articles for people. And so we're back in 2012, you know. Blogs are the rage before video.
Yep.
And, you know, I had probably 100 of these blog articles that I was going to make into a book. And I took them up to our family cabin. And I thought, you know, this is what we do. You know, I was going to assemble all these. I thought this sucked. So I took this big box of blog articles and threw it into the fire pit and just watched them all go up. And my wife's like, what are you going to do now? I said, I'm going to write a book, but it's not going to be the way people want. And it was a couple weeks later, I came back on a plane trip from Arizona, and I thought, I'm going to make this book simple. It's going to be the easiest social media book ever. It was called Share 27 Ways to Boost Your Social Media Experience, Build Trust and Attract Followers. And I wrote it in 20 days. And from that point on, I don't get writer's block. Mm-hmm. When I sit down, I know exactly what's going to happen. I know how things are going to work. And every book that I've produced, I mean, the Rob versus series is pretty much, they write themselves. I mean, the stories are just easy. the like I said, the unscripted book. I took those 7 interviews. It took me, I think, 20 days to produce the book. Had a cover made, and some of the other books, like the Optimize This book. I partnered with a gentleman up in Canada, and from concept to creation to #1 bestseller in 4 countries took 60 days.
Wow.
And for me, I think because I've created content for people, I've created blogs, I've created all these things, the writing process is different for me because I know how to create content.
Mm-hmm.
And a book to me is just an extended piece of content.
Right.
A lot of people I speak to, though, that they have to get motivated. They don't know how to start a book. And I say, start a book wherever you want to start the book. You know, I started the book in the middle, and I thought, okay, well, this is great, but maybe I should shift this over here, shift it back over. And after a while, you just start writing, and you're thinking, okay, yeah, let's just shuffle some of this stuff around.
Yeah.
Now you have a book. Sometimes I start with the bio in the back and work my way front. You know, I've helped lawyers with their books, and I typically tell people, if you're writing a book based on you, the first 3 chapters should be your backstory. It should build up to something.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next chapters could be case studies or ways that you've helped other people. You know, those really inspirational stories that people want to hear about. And you know, all my books are very easy to read.
I demolished that one last night.
Yeah, I mean, that one probably took you about an hour, if that. And I never wanted to write a book where someone was going to say, "Yeah, damn, Rob, I didn't understand a word you were saying."
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make it so that you could read the book in about an hour, put it down, give it to somebody else to read, and they enjoy it. You know. Also, I never wanted to write a book that ended up in the 99-cent bin either. So, so you know, I self-publish all my books.
Right.
You know, but I created my own publishing company to do that. So I know where the books are going, who's reading them, and I just, you know, I love when people have my books and they take a picture and they send it to me.
Yeah, you post that on social media all the time. I you post my picture up there too.
Yeah, I mean, it just, for me, I like it when people, you know, love my book so much that they need to take a picture with it. For me, it's telling me that not only did they love the book, you know, but they're proud to put their picture out there with it. And a lot of authors, they write these great books, but their marketing is lousy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they never ask anybody, hey, can you take a picture with it? Can you do this? Can you? And then they wonder why their book sits on the shelf somewhere. You know, I just, yeah, I'm sarcastic, but I think as I got older, I got a little bit more sensitive. I enjoy, you know, people better.
Yeah.
You know, because they've enjoyed spending time with me through the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely. You could get a feel of how. I mean, I already know who you are, so I could as I was reading, I could hear your voice in these. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, there goes Rob. There goes Rob.
And see, that right there, that's what I want people to realize when they write their book. That same voice,
yeah,
needs to resonate outside that book. So when you hear me or see me on social media, you know it's the same person.
Yep.
When you see me speak on stage, you know it's the same person. A lot of people write these books, or they have someone else write the books, and you're like, oh, okay, that's a good book. Then you meet them in person, they're like, they don't sound like that. They don't sound anything like that.
Yeah. The editing process you can lose your voice in the editing process a lot.
Right.
So you got to choose the right editor.
You know, make sure that your voice comes out so people understand it's you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. I mean, again, talking about what we've been talking about tonight, that connection aspect, like be honest, be real with yourself, be authentic. There's 8 billion people on the planet. We're all connected now. Your people are out there. My people are out there. Nancy's people are out there. Guys, people are, everybody's out. There's so much abundance out there, and everybody lives with a scarcity mindset, thinking that they can't have it or they're not worthy enough. I mean, we can go into that all day long. As we're kind of winding down here a little bit, I want to kind of go back here for the second, because Nancy comments right here. Nancy's writing a book and she's going through the editing process. She says, I'm loving the editing process. I'm glad you are, Nancy, because I am not. I don't like the editing process. But anyways,
you want to know the simple secret trick that I use for editing?
What?
I don't. I get a draft and I go to Facebook and I say, who wants to read my newest book? And I send it out there, and people will raise their hand. They'll email me, hey, Rob, there's a mistake on this page. Oh, hey, great, thanks. It's edited. It's done. It's like people will edit your book for free if you ask them.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I've had people ask me to do that as well. But kind of switching gears and going back to this, because it's something that's kind of been sticking to my mind through this conversation. And the thing we've been talking about, being authentic, right? It's the biggest thing I want to get across to people tonight is when you're authentic with yourself, you don't have to think of things to say. You can just be natural. With having kids, obviously kids don't have the sophisticated mind, I guess, in a way to be able to balance, because kids will be kids. Kids say what they want to say, and they're unfiltered. I have a 7-year-old, and so I find I'm very careful in how I help him censor himself, because I don't want him to lose his identity. How do you do that with your kids? I mean, you want to preach like just be who you are, but you also know that hey, teacher, you're an idiot is not going to get them very far in life. So how do you balance that line with your kids?
Well, the balance was hard for the first couple.
Yeah.
My youngest is 18, and he just had, his girlfriend just had a baby.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
And so I'm like, okay, you can't curse in front of her because you don't want the first words going, to be the F word. And I find myself saying it, and I probably said it on air, but in my books, especially the Rob versus books, I wanted them to be kid friendly.
Yeah, so you wrote that in there. You wanted it to be kid friendly.
So if you read them, the F words have been, edited a little. Mm-hmm. And that's fine, but I know my kids are going to curse. I know that they're going to act out. I know they're going to do stupid shit. I give them the lessons. They can choose to take them and learn, or they can, make their own mistakes and know that, hey, I'm going to help them try to get out of those mistakes, or we embrace them and we learn.
Right.
And I think that's the hardest thing for most entrepreneurs to do is to accept somebody else's life lesson. And my lessons from the dojo gave them 101 ways.
I can't read the cover from here, but I can't see what the
subtitle is. 101 kick butt ways to improve your life, business, and relationships. And I always wanted to write a sequel for that, but I was like, okay, then they're going to have what, 202?
It's gonna be like a scroll, like, whoa.
I always tell the kids, look, you got to make your judgment. You got to make good judgments. They're going to make everybody makes stupid mistakes, mm-hmm. but you got to learn from them. And in business, I've probably failed more than I've succeeded, but the successes have outweighed money-wise that I can, support my family. And so I don't dwell on those mistakes. My father-in-law passed away back in August, and he was a self-employed carpenter that not only super analyzed everything he did, he was like a perfectionist, and he would take too long, and then he would try to charge a client for that too long stuff, and the clients were like, dude, I love your work, but it's too perfect for here.
Right.
And I kept telling him that. And I think that, one, people don't want perfect, they want good.
Yes.
And so
It wasn't
My
done.
philosophy is always good is good enough. Perfect costs too much and takes too long, and you're
Yes.
never going to get a return on investment for perfect.
Mhm.
So, don't flaw yourself because there's mistakes in my books. All of my books have mistakes. And I have people say, "Well, Rob, I love the book." But there's no buts. If you love the book, you're not even going to care about the mistakes.
Right.
And that's our phones. Perfect example. Good is good enough. This is the iPhone 14. That means it's 14 iterations from the very first one, which they said was perfect.
Right.
It's like, no, you keep improving it.
Mhm.
So, and then they put updates on it every single month or whatever. And so it's the constant evolution of who you are is going to make you a better person.
Amen. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, where can people get a hold of you, Mr. Rob?
Then go to anspachmedia.com, ANSPACH media.com. You can find my books there. You can also go to Amazon. And if you go to getrobsbooks.com, that goes to Amazon, and you can buy them directly through there.
So let me put this in the comments. So www.getrobsbooks.com.
Yeah, getrobsbooks.com.
Let's see. Maybe we can put we can make sure that right there.
Yep.
I don't have my glasses on, so I'm doing this by feeling my keyboard and hoping I get the letters right. But yeah,
and so that takes you to Amazon, and I'd be happy to sell you any of my books. You can get them through my website, but you get them quicker through Amazon. And so if you want to wait a week or two, you get my books. If you want them tomorrow, you get them through Amazon. And normally people just go to Amazon.
Right. Awesome, Rob. Well, thank you so much, man. This has been a great conversation. I knew it would be a deep conversation. There's going to be lots of little snippets out of here that we're going to be sharing later this week. But thank you, man. I'm going to put you backstage. Don't go anywhere because I still want to have a little chat with you. I know it's a little bit late over there, but I still want to have a chat with you over there. But don't go anywhere. Thank you, man. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Raw and Unscripted show with Rob Anspach. What a gentleman. What a cool dude, right? Can't you feel like the sincerity? Can't you feel the connectiveness? Like he's being real, he's being honest, he's being authentic. And he's talked about the fact that we all go through that, right? We all go through that period in life where we want everybody's validation. We want everybody's approval. We want to fit in. We want to be right. We want to all these different things because it makes us feel good based on the conditioning that we went through when we were kids. But I invite you to sit there and think about the conversation tonight. And I want you to think about where you're at. Are you being real? Are you being real with yourself first? Number one, being real with yourself first, right? Truthful, right? Am I being honest with myself? Am I happy in this relationship? Am I happy with my body? Am I happy with my food? Am I happy with whatever it might be? And then be honest. Yes or no, not sort of, not maybe. Don't try to convince yourself. Don't try to convince yourself you're happy. Don't try to convince yourself that good enough is okay when you deserve better, right? You got to sit there and make that delineation that you're no longer going to tolerate the fact that you're going to be somebody for somebody else. Like, think about that. You're being somebody you're not. That person's being somebody they're not. How do you expect to really develop a connection? But again, that connection with yourself starts with that honesty. But when you start doing that and you start making changes in your life and you start adjusting the things that you don't like anymore, and you start adjusting the things that you're tolerating, little by little, you start building your confidence. And little by little, you get more comfortable getting out of your comfort zone. And little by little, you start to realize that the imperfections of life are really the gold stones of life, right? Rob talked about the fact that perfection, right? We sit there and aim for perfection. Perfection is bullshit. That is a misnomer. Like he said, go take imperfect action every single day. I'm sitting here today, right? My bracelets say unstoppable. They say unstoppable for a reason because I never stopped. They say no excuses because I never gave myself any excuses. If I didn't know something, I went and figured it out. I kept taking that imperfect action. And guess what? I either learned that I should not be doing whatever it is I was taking the imperfect action on because I never got any better, or the things that I was taking the imperfect action on, I realized those were my gifts. Those were the things. As I continued to speak in front of people and tell people my story, I realized that was one of my gifts. As I continued to do this, as I continued to do those things, but I continue to get better. And the thing is, this is a journey, not a destination, guys. You're not going to get somewhere You're not going to get there someday. Today is the day. And when you get real and honest with yourself and you start making those changes in your life and you start surrounding yourself with people who get you and people who know you and love you anyway, which is kind of a joke, then life gets really, really good, because then it's sweet. And then you can fuck with people, and you can have that deeper sense of connection, and that you can say anything, you can vent to somebody, you can tell somebody your honest truths, right? How many people really have best friends out there that they can tell them everything, right? Be the best person that you can be, because we're all unique. We're all unique. We don't need another version of Chris. We don't need another version of Rob. We don't need another version of Tammy, whatever it might be. Be you. And then you're going to attract the right people in your life. You're going to attract the right loves in your life. You're going to start having more confidence and more courage. You're going to start making a deeper impact. You're going to start loving yourself and loving your moments more. You're going to find that there's more peace and freedom in all of that. Because at the end of the day, we're not taking any of this stuff with us. What we're doing is we're leaving something behind. We're leaving behind our gifts. We're leaving behind the impressions and the connections that we made with people. We're leaving behind our legacy. Rob said that in the very beginning of the show. He talked about freedom and legacy, right? The freedom to be you and the legacy to leave behind that you're proud of. And I suggest to you guys all of this, right? You think about your legacy, you think about your why. What is my why? My why, personally, I know this by heart. My why is to take risks, and to risk for which that matters, and to make this world a better place, to use my words and my actions to make other people smile, and to make other people think differently. My purpose in my world is to be the best possible dad I can be for my kid, and to enjoy this life that we're gifted with, right? Are you enjoying your moments right now? And if you're not, why? Oh, I'm stressed out. I'm overwhelmed. I've got this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this. And Chris, you don't understand. Take one thing at a time. What's the biggest thing that by addressing it will give you some freedom, will give you some cushion, right? Talk to your family, get them on board, start making those changes now, because at the end of the day, you don't want to get to the end of your life and realize that there is so much more you could have done. You don't want to get to the end of your life and realize that you tolerated so much bullshit that you were never truly happy within, like really, really happy. Like so many people think that happiness is something else that everybody else has. You deserve happiness, ladies and gentlemen. Start loving yourself. Start being more honest. Surround yourself with kick-ass people, and take that imperfect action every single day. Build the legacy that you're going to be proud of in every moment and every conversation that you possibly have. This is the last thing I do. I know my son can turn this on at when he wants to and say, Dad was living his point. Every time I come in contact with somebody, if that's the last person I come in contact with, they say, how was Chris? Oh my God, he was so uplifting. He was this, that. And that's the way I am, ladies and gentlemen. It's not an act. It's not an act. I'm always going to be real with you, right? I'm excited to be here. Do I have challenges? Do I get depressed and anxious and all those other things, all those human things? Yes, of course I do. I'm not perfect. And some people say, oh, Chris, you're always so this, that. I just know what to do in order to change my state and get back into the place of living, right? That's what I've done a really, 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 really good job of doing in my life. And of course, being who I am. So take that to heart, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a beautiful place to be. I don't live in fear. I don't live in anxiety. I don't live in chaos. I live in love. And I choose peace over all the chaos that happens in the world, because I'm true to myself and I'm true to the people in my life. You do that and you will find lots of abundance, lots of love, and lots of opportunities to leave your legacy. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Raw and Unscripted show for this week. Go to noexcusescoach.com. Of course, check me out, see what's going on. Come back here again next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the video cast, and we will see you here. For those of you guys aren't following us on podcasts, go to Spotify, go to iTunes, go to Amazon, go wherever you want, and type in Raw and Unscripted, or type in Christopher Rausch, Rausch. You will find my podcast, and you'll be able to take me with you all the time. Thank you guys. And also be sure to tune into my Friday night show, The Unfiltered Experience, Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can check that out as well. I do that with my brother, Scott Goyette. We have an amazing conversation talking about spirituality, and we go deep in metaphysical stuff like that. So we encourage you to check that out, theunfilteredexperience.com. And we will see you here next week. Thank you, guys. Love you. Thank you, guys. We'll see you here next time on the Raw and Unscripted show.